All right. Hello, everyone. We're at the top of the hour, so we can go ahead and get started today. I'm Kaylee Hansen with SVA Consulting, and joining me today is Austin, a customer success manager with SVA as well. So today's webinar topic will be focusing on Acumatica Payments. So we'll get a little bit into what that looks like, what Acumatica Payments is, and then a demo today as well. Before we jump in, we'll do a couple of housekeeping items. So if you're new to this webinar series, it's great to have you. And if you're returning, welcome back. Any questions that come up during the webinar, you can go ahead and use the chat to ask your questions. If it makes sense to address those at the moment, we'll go ahead and address those. Otherwise, we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. All right, so looking a bit at our agenda today, we'll do a little bit of an overview on Acumatica Payments, what it is. It's likely a new name for some of you. We'll walk through that overview. Then we'll get into the Acumatica Payments demo, where we'll see Acumatica payment features in action. From there, we'll talk a little bit about what that process looks like to get started with Acumatica Payments, what that application process may look like, and what to expect on that end. And then finally, we'll wrap up with our typical questions and any next steps as well. So I'll go ahead and hop in. So Acumatica Payments is new. It's a new native payment gateway and processor within Acumatica. So it's included within Acumatica's core product. It's no additional cost on the Acumatica side. And we'll walk through some of the main features in a moment here, but really one of the main aspects of Acumatica Payments that a lot of our customers are interested in is the self-servicing capability. So with Acumatica Payments, customers are able to self-serve some of their payments through credit card and ACH payments, through automated payment links, as well as invoice QR codes. So a couple of the main features we want to highlight before we get into the demonstration. Kind of like I said, Acumatica Payments accepts major forms of payments. So you can have customers paying via debit card, credit card, and ACH. All of the payment through checks will also still be supported within Acumatica as well. And then with those cards, you can expect MasterCard, Visa, Discovery, Amex. All of those are available as well. Like we talked about, Acumatica Payments begins to invite the customer self-servicing capability, both through automated payment link emails, where customers can go ahead, click the link, and pay for open invoices, as well as QR codes added within the invoice form itself. So we'll see both of those as well as we get through the demo. Third, it helps accelerate payment settlement and reconciliation. So there's automated invoicing issuing, recurring payments, and expired cards as well. So it can help automate the process of controlling those. And then it also has the automated daily bank deposit feature as well. So we'll also look at that, but some of those key highlights there. Lastly, as you'd expect, you can stay secure and compliant. So with Acumatica Payments, again, it's both a payment gateway and processor. So we have the secure token access as well as it's PCI compliant. And then lastly, a couple of new expected roadmap features as well. So with Acumatica Payments kind of being native within the Acumatica software, they're constantly having additional roadmap features being added within the platform. So you can expect things, some of them that have come out already are surcharging by payment method. So being able to push some of those processing fees to customers began with kind of a customization project within Acumatica, but then will begin to be native as well. Additionally, commerce connectors, so the ability to use Acumatica Payments within both Shopify and BigCommerce. And then lastly, a couple of other roadmap items are the mobile card reader enhancements specific to some of the field services features as well. All right, so that's kind of a high level overview. We'll get into it. One thing I will note as well is a lot of our customers today have been leveraging authorize.net for some of the credit card processing within Acumatica. And I do want to note, I think a lot of you guys are aware of it, but this Acumatica authorize.net integration will be depreciated within 2025. So a lot of that communication has been pushed out to you guys already. But just to remind you of that, we're happy to have further conversations with anyone who's interested there. But we do have a little bit of time, but also wanting to present Acumatica Payments at an early stage, both for swapping out that payment processor, as well as taking a look at some of those new features that have been added based on some of the feedback that Acumatica has gotten directly for customers, mainly around that self-servicing capability. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this screen, and we'll transition over to Acumatica, where we can see some of these items in play. All right, you should all be able to see Acumatica now. So we'll walk through some of those main features we talked about within that previous slide. Before I go ahead and do that, I'll note we'll mainly be working with two main areas today. So first being the invoices and memos screen. So as you would expect, typical invoices within the accounts receivable module can be leveraged with Acumatica Payments. So any typical invoices you have, we can start to leverage some of those payment links and QR code features for customers to pay those invoices online. The other place that this will come into play is on the sales order side. So any sales orders that you have that then create that sales order invoice, customers will also be able to self-service those payments. So kind of two main components there that we'll walk through. All right, so to start, I'll go ahead and just create an invoice. I'm going to go ahead and create an invoice for just this Prime Solutions customer. And this might just be a monthly November invoice. And then let's go ahead and add in some monthly services for maybe 25 hours. We'll go ahead and save that. Give it a moment here. So this whole process will look the same within Acumatica. I'll start by just walking through how we can kind of have ad hoc credit card and ACH payments being added by someone on your team within the back end. So that functionality will remain the same. And then we'll take a look at that payment link and QR code functionality as well, where we'll kind of put on the hat as a customer and pay from their perspective as well. So here is just my invoice, pretty basic here, but we'll go ahead and release this. Once I do that, I can go ahead and create a payment either directly through this invoice screen, or as you guys are familiar with, through that payments and applications screen as well. I'll just go ahead and keep it simple, and we'll go ahead and pay it directly through here. And what that will do is open up that payments and applications screen, and it's going to go ahead and create the payment against this specific invoice. I'm going to go ahead and change this payment method, and we'll assume that in this case, maybe they're paying via credit card. And so I'll go ahead and select that payment method. And this should be a pretty similar process to what you are working through today if you're using credit card payments. So here you'll see it's using this Acumatica Payments credit card processing center. And then I'll go ahead and see that the new card is selected. So if they had previously saved credit cards within their account, I could also go ahead and select that. But in this case, we're going to assume it's a new credit card, and I'm going to want to capture that information. So we'll go ahead and save. And then at this point, I could authorize or capture, but I'm just going to go ahead and capture this payment. And what this will do is pop open this new credit card pop-up window where I can go ahead and put in their information. So we'll go ahead and put in a test credit card here. It's going to use their billing address, and I'm going to go ahead and submit. We'll let that load, but anything that you have within their account already, so any previous credit cards, again, it has that secure token within Acumatica. None of that payment credit card information is actually being stored within Acumatica. but you could reuse that or use this new payment feature as well, which would allow you to put in a new credit card for that payment. So pretty straightforward process, similar to any of our customers using Authorize.net today. That process within the backend of Acumatica should look almost identical or exactly the same there. All right. Next, we'll walk through another example, and in this case, we'll just go ahead and create an additional invoice, and then we'll pay via ACH. So it'll look pretty much the same, but just to get a feel for what differences might exist there. So we'll use that same customer. Same type of invoice here. Go ahead and save that. We'll release it. And then we'll go ahead and pay as well. So this time I'm going to change my payment method to an ACH payment. You'll see they have one on file already, so I could go ahead and use that. Otherwise, I could click New Account, in which case it will give me the same type of pop-up window where I can go ahead and put in their ACH information. So I'll go ahead and save this, and then we'll capture that payment as well. Right, we'll go ahead and press submit. So pretty straightforward process there. Again, this would be if you were managing the payments within your backend. So maybe you received a payment from the customer and you're managing that in the backend. Okay, and it looks like we do have a question in the chat. All right, let's see here.
Yes, so the question reads, can you apply a range of invoices to one client or customer? If so, if I have multiple payments, how can I apply them all at once?
Yeah, yep, good question. So that would be going directly through this payments and applications screen. So from there, I can go ahead and create a new payment. So let's say you receive a large payment, maybe just $5,000, depending on which customer you select there. So I might not have open invoices on this customer, but let's take a look. So I could go ahead and put in a payment amount and then select which of their open invoices I want to apply that to. And you'll see those auto-populated based on that customer. So once you put in a customer, all of their open invoices will come through, and then I could put in a payment at the very top there and then apply them as I would like to those invoices.
And one additional thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, looks like it does. And one additional thing to elaborate on Kaylee's point is within the self-service functionality that we'll see here from Kaylee in just a bit, there is the ability, and this can be configured to meet your specific needs. You do have the ability to allow clients to make partial payments if you so choose, and have the ability to see multiple open invoices and apply payment to either one invoice or multiple invoices based on what they select within that self-service payment portal. So again, we'll get into some greater detail about that here in just a bit.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Perfect. All right, so that's a pretty good transition actually into the self-servicing side. So I'll go ahead and walk through the same approach I just did where I create an invoice, but then we'll see how I can generate that payment link, which allows the customer to self-service that payment. So I'll create a new invoice here. And let's go ahead and use the Shoreline customer. We'll go ahead and create just a monthly service invoice, for example. Go ahead and save that. So the process of creating that invoice will look exactly the same. And then I'll go ahead and release this. And once I release that, we'll see how the customer can then pay for it. So you'll see once this feature is added within Acumatica, there's going to be this new payment links tab within your invoices, as well as within your sales orders and your sales order invoices. So once I click on this payment links tab, I'm just going to select this processing center here. And mine's in a demo site, so this is what I'm going to do manually, but in your case, this process would be automated. So for example, once you release your invoice, it can automatically then create this payment link email, which will be sent to customers. So again, I'll do this manually and we'll see what that looks like. So I just pressed create payment link. It told me that this has been created, and then we'll see that record of that link within this specific invoice, as well as the status. So it's open, meaning the customer has not yet gone in and paid. So there is that information there. And then you'll also notice that once I created that payment, it added this activity at the top. So what that activity is it automatically created this invoice email with a payment link. So this is kind of a new email template within Acumatica with this payment feature. And we'll open that up to see what that looks like. And consistent with other emails within Acumatica, this could be tailored towards you, a bit more configurable. This is just the out-of-the-box one and what that looks like. So here we'll see a little bit of the information, and it just says, hey, this is an invoice to you. Please use this link to pay. So that's the initial email. And then I can also have the automated email for invoicing go out as well. So I just clicked email invoice, and then it's going to automatically send that typical invoice email as well. And that's the one that will have that direct document attached to it. So this should be something that I think you guys should be pretty familiar with. One nuance here I'll point out is that when I open that up, there's now a QR code within this specific document as well. So that would allow customers to scan the QR code and pay on their phone, for example, or through that payment link as well. So I'll show you what that payment link looks like. And in that case, I'll be reverting back to kind of the customer's perspective. All right. So I'll click on this email again. This is sent out automatically through the system. And so if I was a customer opening an email, this is the link I would use. So I'll go ahead and go to this link. Now it's going to pop me into what the customer would see. So in this case, here I have that specific invoice that I just created. This is again with from the customer's perspective. And then if I view that, I can see what that specific line item detail description was as well. So there it is. I'll go ahead and pay it. And to Austin's earlier point, if I had multiple invoices, those would show up as well. It's going to auto select the one that's due or the one that is associated with that specific payment link, but I could also select multiple other invoices and pay as well. So I think I have an example of that coming up, so we can see what that looks like as well. So again, I'll go ahead and pay, and then depending on how you have your settings set up, you can allow them to pay via credit card, via ACH, or both. So in this case, this customer could have the option to choose between paying via ACH or credit card. Again, that's something you guys can configure within the system. And then to Austin's earlier point as well, we could have partial payments an option as well. So you could have them, they need to pay in full. Otherwise, you could have an option that says allow them to pay in partial. And in that case, it would allow me, as you can see here, to edit that amount. I'm going to go ahead and keep it in pay in full. And we'll do via ACH in this example. So again, I'll use this test account number. Actually, that would be the routing number. And then we're going to go ahead and check that the customer agrees to pay that amount above, and then we'll go ahead and press pay invoice. All right, and then it's giving them that confirmation that the payment has been processed. I can go ahead and click done, and it's going to say, that's it. No further action is required. You can go ahead and close out. So again, that's all from the customer's side. You sent them an email, they clicked the link, they made that payment. So now let's see how that comes back into Acumatica. All right, so I'm back on my invoice, and now we'll see the payment link is still in that open status. I'll need to go ahead and sync it. So similarly to when we created the payment link, same thing goes for if you're syncing the payment link, that's all going to be automated as well. So we can automate that through our processing screen for processing payment links. So that way you don't have to manually sync it every time. It's just going to automatically come through. And once that comes through, we'll take a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to manually do it in this demo environment. Once that payment link syncs, you'll notice it has a status of closed here. And then if I go to my applications tab, that's where it's going to reference that payment that was created. So here's my payment. It's closed. It's already been paid. And then you'll see my invoice has closed out as well. One other thing to note is that before this had been closed out, you'll see that resend payment link was available. So if the invoice has not yet been paid and a customer, for example, needed you to resend that payment link, it can always go ahead and resend it as well. So that option is available. All right, so that's on the invoicing side. And then the same process can be said for the sales order side. So we'll go ahead and create a sales order within the system. And this is maybe where someone would pay via credit card. So I'll go ahead and walk through that process as well. So we'll create a new sales order. I'll use my Gracewood customer here. And just add a couple of line items here. So in this case, we might just add some holiday cards since the holiday season's approaching, and they just want 10 of those boxes. So I'll go ahead and save that. And we did have one question pop through too. I saw, does Acumatica have the ability to add a processing fee if they decide to pay through the link automatically?
I can speak to that, Kaylee.
Yeah, perfect.
So you do have the ability, it's referred to as credit card surcharging, and you do have the ability to do credit card surcharging for credit card payments. Now, the amount that can be charged to the customer cannot exceed the actual cost of accepting that payment to offset that fee. That being said, it does require it's an account-wide setting. So what that does mean is that you would need to specify early on in the transition process to Acumatica Payments that you do wish to do credit card surcharging, and then the team that supports you through that transition can work with you to set that up.
Perfect. Thank you, Austin. All right. So here's my sales order I created. I just created a single line item there. They're going to purchase 10 boxes of these holiday cards. So again, we'll notice this payment links tab is here. So depending on when you choose to invoice your customer on the sales order side, you could do it kind of at the time of order, or more typically we would see it happen after that shipment goes out. So that's the process I'll walk through today. But there are a couple of different areas where you could create that payment link. All right, I'll go ahead and create the shipment. Here's. And I apologize. I don't know if you guys can hear some of that background noise. It sounds like there's construction going on. Sorry about that. All right. Okay. So I just got my shipping rate there, confirm this package, and then we'll go ahead and quickly confirm the shipment. Oops, let me confirm that again. All right, created my shipment, and now I'm going to go ahead and create that sales order invoice there. So here's my invoice. This is the payment link screen. I'll go ahead and release that. And then my product is shipped out. I created that invoice, and now we're looking for that customer to go ahead and create the payment. So again, I'll create the payment link. Went ahead and created that. I'll see that record there. And then again, same thing as we saw before, that automated email went out with that same payment link. There we go. And then if I wanted to go ahead and email this as well, same thing as we saw on the previous invoicing side, that activity goes out, and then we have that QR code added to that printed form as well. So both on a sales order invoice and that typical invoice, we'll see that capability. All right, so open back up my payment email, assuming I'm the customer now. I just received this email, and I'm going to go ahead and pay. So here's what happens. Same interface we saw pop up. You'll see it automatically selected that specific invoice, but then I had a different one. So there is what we talked about previously, where Austin had mentioned if there's multiple open invoices, the customer has the ability to select and pay multiple at once through one singular payment. That's a setting you can provision though. If you just want them paying one at a time, you could go ahead and do that as well, not giving them the ability to go ahead and pay for previous invoices. So I might actually choose to go ahead and pay for both. Again, I could view the details there. If I had multiple lines within that specific order, those are populated as well, depending on my description. So I'll go ahead and pay. We'll use credit card. It's going to populate in some of that default information on the customer record, but they could override it if needed as well. And then there, again, if I had the ability to do partial payments, I could do that. I'll just go ahead and pay in full. And then we'll go ahead and pay those invoices. All right, so it's showing both of them paid. I'll click done. We'll go back into my invoice and we'll go ahead and sync it. Again, the syncing of this would be automated. Perfect. And then we'll go ahead and see on the application, we can see the payment that was made there as well. All right. So pretty slick process. Again, the back end, how you guys are managing invoices, how you are manually putting in payments, for example, that's pretty consistent with what you'd expect if you're using something like authorize.net today. But then it does invite additional functionality on the customer side to have them kind of click to pay.
And it looks like we do have another question here, Kaylee. So this viewer said, we have multiple bank accounts and currently only have the ability to accept credit card payments into one bank account. With this new process, is there the ability to have multiple bank accounts accept credit cards? The allocation would be based on the invoice.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that would be within kind of our payment or processing center setup. I don't know, Austin, if you know the direct answer to that off the top of your head. Otherwise, we might just verify that so we make sure we're giving you exactly the right answer there. Austin, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am not 100% certain, so I'll give that that bit of fine print there. But I believe what Kaylee had said is consistent with my understanding, where you would have the ability to define based on the customer and therefore the invoice that was sent, which account those funds would end up posting to. So I do know, and I can say with certainty, that you do have the ability to have multiple accounts for settlement of those funds and multiple bank feeds as well. So I can say that with certainty, but we will have to follow up and get final confirmation on the specific functionality around that to directly answer your question.
Perfect. All right. One last loop here before we kind of go to back to the deck is a little bit around that question as well. So within the setup through Acumatica Payments, we can choose where we want those funds to go into. So in this case, here I have my payment. If I go into that GL batch, we can see that I have it set up to first go into a clearing account. So that's the way I have it set up. You could have it go directly into a checking account as well, if that's how you would like your process to go. But in this case, it will support being able to first go into a clearing account and then automatically bringing in those settlement batches, which will then create the bank deposit and then in turn adjust that journal transaction so that it's going from your clearing account into your checking account. So here we can just see in this example, I imported that batch and that was a payment made within Acumatica Payments. And then it created my bank deposit. And then what that did was, again, bring it from the clearing account into my checking account. So that's all supported within Acumatica Payments as well. All right, I'll go ahead and stop sharing this. And we'll switch back to, switch that view there, to my slide deck. And we'll kind of talk through the process next and then some wrap-up items as well. So with working to implement Acumatica Payments, there's a little bit of a process as you would expect on the payment side. So we would work with you. The first step would kind of be reaching out to us. So either myself or Austin. Otherwise, we have some contact emails at the end that you could reach out to as well. And we would just get that conversation going and engage some of the Acumatica Payments team as well. So we'd have an early discovery on whether or not you're using something like authorize.net today, or if this is brand new for you, what that could look like. From there, we would work through kind of what that would look like in terms of processing fees and that sort of thing. Again, remember, it is native within Acumatica, so there's no additional cost or module cost on the Acumatica side specifically. So what they would help walk through is kind of a statements review. So we would look at recent credit card statements, and this would really help provide an analysis on what to expect in terms of those processing fees to be both accurate and competitive on that end. From there, we would get into an application process. So you would complete the application, and then from there, we can go ahead and work through any token migration that makes sense. They would work through the application approval process, and then really we would get into kind of the implementation stage where we would walk through kind of basic training, setup, any migration again, and then really launch with your team. So high level look at the process and what you could expect on that end. Austin, any additional comments there?
Yeah, absolutely. So one additional thing that I wanted to mention as part of that that timeline between the approval and the launch, as part of the launch process, we do make sure that you get set up with a demo environment, in which case you would be provided with test credit card numbers, same with ACH numbers, so that you can go through all of your workflows to make sure that it is fully operating in the way that you would expect, much like a process that you would go through for any of the upgrades to a new version of Acumatica. You'll have that same ability to do all of that testing to give you and your team full confidence for the actual changeover day.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. That was kind of the high level overview of what we had today. I hope that gave you all a good understanding at a high level of what Acumatica Payments is, what to expect on that end. So again, if you're interested in what you saw here, you want to further that conversation with us, obviously reach out to myself, reach out to Austin. You can also contact us through those 2 emails listed below. Our next webinar will be on December 12th. And what we'll talk about in that session is more of the commerce side. So we'll walk through native e-commerce connectors, both to Shopify and BigCommerce, where you can go ahead and integrate directly through those. So any customers that may be ordering online can automatically integrate those orders, that inventory, the customer detail within Acumatica as well. So kind of a hot topic coming up here So I would recommend you all tune into that as well, and you can scan that QR code. You can view all of our webinars within our YouTube series. So you can go to SVA Consulting on YouTube and then the Acumatica webinars. This one will be posted there afterwards. You can also take a look at any previous ones we did as well. With that, I don't believe there's any additional questions in the chat. But if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to us and we'd be happy to help out. Thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care.
Bye.